Because, like, I haven't seen it anywhere. You guys don't even talk about it in your analogy here. And I want to know what's happening with this guy. And they looked at me, and there was a long silence, you know. And I could see there was a little sweat beading on some foreheads. And, you know, I was like, well, because... you know, and then I thought, oh, maybe they're going to think I'm going to start talking about God, you know, at Georgia Tech. That would be like, oh my God, you can't do that at the physics department in Georgia Tech. I was like, I reassured them. I said, you know, because, you know, in order for the balloon to expand, right, so I started to draw the rest of the guy. You know? And so you see, when the balloon expands, right, the lungs in the guy has to contract. Right? You can't get, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction at, you know, fundamental law of physics, remember that one? And that, you know, and then the room got really silent. And I was basically saying to them, there must be a balance between the expansion and the contraction, between what goes out and what comes in, and the information must be going in a feedback relative to that dynamic. I mean, you can apply that to your life right now. I mean, you are expanding energy right now. You thermodynamically even, you know, you're expanding heat. And you got to eat, you got to put stuff in for that to happen, right? Even in terms of your senses, you expand energy so that your sense works, so that when you touch something, so that you can see something, that you can smell something, you can taste something. And those things are going from the outside in. And those things are going in, and you interpret them, and then based on that interpretation, you act outside. Right? So it's that feedback, that relationship between the out and the in and the out and the in. And actually the separation on this planet is that some people say it's all in and some people say it's all out. Right? The spiritual gurus are saying it's all in, and the scientist gurus are saying it's all out. Right? And what I'm saying is like, no, it's both. You know, really, you guys, it's both. It's happening because if it wasn't both, it wouldn't function, right? It can't even get anywhere. It won't. You need that guy blowing that balloon, right? You need to pack information in for information to come out. And that starts to give you an idea of the dynamics of creation, the dynamics of you creating the world. Imagine a fractal universe from finite to, from infinite in all directions. How would you find a center? You can't, right? There's no center because there's infinite amount of boundaries. Every point becomes the center in a fractal, right? So you imagine you are the center of the universe. Now as long as you remember that everybody else is, you're going to be all right. But let's assume that, I'm not even saying that philosophically. I'm saying like if there's universe embedded into each other to infinity, there is one universe out there that you're the exact center of. I mean, geometrically. Okay? And that is a very large universe. I mean, and every one of you is part of that. But they're all different centers. However, so like first of all, to land that in your consciousness is quite an expensive thought. But when you realize that, is that you're feeding information to the vacuum, and the information is being fed back to you in your experience. And a lot of people in the spiritual world now are starting to talk about creating your reality, right? Drives me nuts, but never mind. It's a good thing. It's a good thing in the correct application. I mean, and I think that's where it fails in many cases, because you are creating your reality. But if for 1 second you forget that the rest of the universe is creating its own reality as well, and that it's a feedback between the outside and the inside, then you got a problem. Okay? I used to say, Sedona is the worst place to have a car accident. Because, you'll be, dying on the street in blood, and people will come by and say, why did you create that in your life? And it's like, it's a good way to not have empathy, right? But, so I'm saying, it's a feedback, it's a relationship. It's not a one-way thing, it's a two-way thing. So it's like, we interpret the field, and the field gives us something, but in physics, there's a really good analogy for this, because I added torque and Coriolis forces to Einstein field equation to solve for unified field theory. But when you do that, currently in the fundamental concepts of geometry in typical Minkowski space in Einstein field equation, the triads, like the three vectors of space, right, and the one vector at a time. Let's say you rotate it around a geodesic on the surface of a black hole, for instance. It should come back the same, but if you add torque and Coriolis effect, if the black hole has hair, then it comes back change. Okay? And that's what I believe is going on, is that the universe learns about itself by sending information in and then seeing the result outside and then interpreting that and then sending that back in, and that's what a fractal is. From a deterministic, small, simple equation, you reiter it and reiter it, and you get something completely nonlinear. Incredible amount of complexity from a very simple beginning. And I believe that's how the universe learns, and I believe that's how you learn, by your experiences. And so how you interpret it truly is going to influence how it's going to come back to you. But it's going to come back a little bit changed. Because if it wasn't, then your universe would stop. Right there, it would be done. It'd learn everything. You'd get bored so fast, right? If you could create your reality and it came out exactly the way you wanted it, you'd, like within seconds, you'd like, whoa! And then you'd be, what do I do now? Right? So that would be the end of the universe. But if it continuously changed, so you want a red Camaro, you get a blue one. Dang! All right, well, now you're starting to kind of have a feel for blue. Next thing you know, you get in a car accident and you have to repaint it. Now it's purple. Dang! So now you got to get a feel for purple. And so on, and so on, and so on. And so that's like, if you start to see your relationship to the universe in that feedback, and I don't have time tonight, but I can show you the equations that prove that that's how the universe functions. I mean, why? I mean, it's not just a philosophical thing. This is why the sun is radiating. This is why the galaxy is there. This is why the universe is there. That feedback in a toroidal dynamic that creates our reality and the relationship between the two. So I started to realize as well that that there must be, like, let's go back in time again. And now I'm a teenager. I got kicked out of many other schools, and I'm starting my classes in science, and I think it was chemistry. I was in the first class of science was chemistry, and I did in mathematics, and I got really excited. The first thing I put my hand up, I say, can you tell me what an atom is? So I thought, oh, he's going to have some kind of, good explanation for what the heck is an atom, because I couldn't figure it out. And I was really surprised from the answer. First, the answer was, well, that would be a physics question. And second, this is really not part of our curriculum for this,